Hello everyone, today we are going to learn about a new topic in Python, and that is lists in Python. What are lists in Python? And in today's topic, we are going to dive into the extreme detail about and we're going to learn about everything about lists in Python. A quick overview about lists. If you have ever read or learned about arrays in C++ or C or in Java, or in JavaScript, then you might have probably be familiar with the array type of structure. So in Python, the work of an array is done by a list. Okay, so this was the overview only. But if you haven't learned or read about anything about the array data structure, then don't worry, because in today's video I'm gonna teach you everything about lists in Python, and that way you will also get to know familiarize with the concept of arrays in other programming languages. So let's get started. As you can see on the screen, we are going to learn about Python. So Python in programming, we are just implement algorithm. So what are the algorithm? Basically, algorithm are the set of rules or steps that we use to solve a particular problem. All right. And what are the data structure? Data structure is just a particular way or a procedure to organize data in a computer's memory, right? So how we organize data, how we store data, how we save data is what we do in data structure. And there are like lot of data structure procedural ways. One of them is lists. Okay, and the other ones examples in Python are tuples, and the other are linked list, stack, queue, heap data structure, and there are so many others as well. So in today in particular, we are only going to learn about the lists in Python. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Here its title is what is not a collection. So first, if we are learning about lists in Python, we have to know about first basically what is a collection. Okay, so most of our variables have only one value in them. Okay, what are variables? Basically, if you're not familiar with variable, I'll just help you with that. Variables are just a container which are used to store a single value in them. Okay, in example, there's a box, and in that box, you can only store one item in that box, right? Let's say your mouse or a keyboard, right? So that box is said to be a variable which stores a particular value in it, and that value is only a single item. Okay, but what happens if we put multiple values to that same box? Then that box is said to be a list. So if so, you must be familiar with it, that a list is just basically a container where you can store a multiple value. Okay, so that's a basic concept of list. So a collection is what? Collection is something where you can store multiple values, more than one values basically. Okay, and that values may be of different types as well, or maybe of same types as well, and we will get to know about that, right? So here you can see as an example, here is it written that Python x is equals to 2. X equals to 2. What is x? X is a variable. X is a variable which is a container, and it only contains a value 2. Now we can modify this same variable by updating, by just changing the value in that container x, and we change the value to with 4. Okay, so when we print x, and the answer output will be 4, because we have changed the value in that container x. So this is only a concept of variable where you can change the value in the variable, and it only contains a single value. So what is a collection? Collection allows you to put many values in a single variable. So that's what an array also does, a list also does. List is a form of a collection where you can put and store many values in a single variable referred by a single name. Okay, so collection is nice because we can carry all many values around in one convenient package. Like if I give you the example of collection, imagine this as a luggage, right? When you go on a trip or a vacation, you carry a luggage with you, and in that particular suitcase or luggage or an airbag, you just store a multiple amounts of clothes in that single suitcase, right? You carry all the stuff that you are necessary for the vacation. So that is what a collection is. Okay, a collection is just a store where you can store and put various many values basically in just one convenient package. For example, friends. Friends is just a variable which is containing three values, and three values are string literals. First is Joseph, second is Glenn, third is Sally. Similarly, carry on. Carry on is a collection, okay, type of a collection where it contains three values, and namely as socks, shirt, or perfume. Okay, these is an example of collection, and list is a kind of a collection. List is simple as this. So we can say here that friends is a kind of a list. Carry on is also a list, and this friend list is containing three values, namely Joseph, Glenn, and Sally. starting with index 0, 1 and 2. Joseph is at index 0, Glenn is at index 1 and Sally is at index 2. So let's put on the next slide and we'll get to know more about the list. In next slide we can see here what is list constants. Okay, list constants are surrounded by squared brackets and the elements in the list are separated by the commas. So here is an example of a list where you can see there is a square bracket here. Okay, oh sorry, there is a square bracket here and it contains three values, 1, 24 and 76. So this is a list because it contains more than one values in the collection and all the three values are separated by a comma. Okay, so this is a list basically. So if we print this list, it will print 1, 24 and 76. Other example is, here is also a list containing a string values. It contains three values of string. First is red, second is yellow, third is blue. So this is also a list. Okay, if we print this list, it will print red, yellow, blue in a kind of a list separated by a comma. Third example, red 2498.6. So here you can see that a list can also contain multiple values of different data types. So data types is not restricted. So here is the difference between an array and a list. Array, what we can do in an array is that we can only store many values of same data type, but in lists what we can do is that we can store many values, more than one value, but that can be of different data types. Okay, the red is of a string data type, 24 is of here you can see 24 is of integer data type, here you can see 98.6 is a floating data type, and if we print this list, it will give the output as red, 24 and 98.6 all contained in a single list. Okay, and we can refer red as list index 0, we can refer 24 as list of index 1, we can refer 98.6 as list of index 2. Okay, so this is of the indexing and list happens. And in the other example we can also see that we can also store list inside of a list. Here is an example of list where it contains three values. One, the first is an integer value, second is a list containing two values each, sorry, containing two values 5 and 6, and the third value in the original list is 7 as an integer. Okay, so here is a list which contains three values, two of them are integers and one of them is only a list. Okay, so if you print this, it will print this output, and if you can also print an empty list. Okay, so if you see a list element can be any Python object, even another list, a list can be empty as well. So in list you can store to recap you of this list constants, I can recap you. List constants are surrounded by square brackets and every value in the list is separated by a comma. And inside a list you can store values of any data type. It doesn't matter whether it's a string or boolean or a float or decimal or an integer or a long, as long as you're putting a right syntax and right data type value, then that is a valid list. And you can also put any other list inside a same list. Okay, here's example, you can put maybe two or more than one list inside a list, that is also valid. You can also print an empty list. So moving on to the next slide, we here is a big quite example, a good example of a list that will explain you very well how we traverse in a list. Okay, so we traverse it through each and every element of a list with the help of a for loop. Basically we use for in loop. So what we can do is that here is a list, example list, which contains five values, namely 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are traversing in this list as for I in this list value. So what this for loop will do, for in loop will just traverse through each and element of that list. First it will traverse to 5, it will then update the control variable, then it will traverse through 4, it will then update the control variable, it will traverse to 3. Okay, so here is the working of the for in loop. First I is 0 and then therefore it will go into the list of index 0, which is 5. It will print the value of 5, it will update the control variable, and then I will update to from 0 to 1, then the counter variable will move to the list of index 1, and that is 4. It will print the I, therefore the output is 5 and 4, and then it will again update the control variable, and then the control variable will become 0, 1 and 2. Then list of index 2 is 3. As you all know that the indexing starts from 0, so therefore 0, 1 and 2, the second index in the list will be 3. Then it will print the element 3, and therefore we can see the output as 3. Then it will again update the control variable, it will go, and then the control variable will be updated as 3. Then it will print the output 2, then it will print the output similarly as 1, and then when the for loop is completed, it will print the blast off as just a simple random message. Okay, this was the functioning of a list, and also the function of for in loop, and how we can traverse through each and every element in the list. Same as goes for tuples as well, and this is a collection of lists. Okay, So if we go to the next slide, we can see lists and definite loops. These are the best friends. Okay, so if you have to traverse through each and every of the list, each and every element of from a list, then you have to traverse with the help of for in loop. Okay, for example, here we have a list which is termed as friends. Sorry, here we have list which is termed as friend, contains three values of string, namely zero index is Joseph, first index is Glenn, and the second index is Sally. Now, how we can traverse through each and every element of the list? We can travel with the help of for in loop. Okay, the syntax is this: for friend, here you can put any control variable as you wish. Here I am written as friend. I have written friend. Now I am traversing through the list which is known as friends. Just see the s here in friends. Okay, so this is the list name, and the friend is a control variable which will traverse through each and every element of the list which is named as friends. Okay, so initially friend is 0, so it will go to the 0th index of the list, and then it will print happy new year Joseph. So the output is happy new year Joseph. Then the control variable will get updated. Then the value of the friend will become update from 0 to 1, and the list index 1 is Glenn, so it will print happy new year Glenn. And then again it will get updated to 2, and then the second index in the list of friend is Sally, and therefore it will print happy new year Sally. And then after this for loop is execution is completed, then it will print this last statement which is referred to as done, and therefore it will print the done message. And that's simple as that. And the example is this: you can also change the naming convention of the list. Let's suppose I have named this list as the letter Z or Z, whatever, and then we are executing everything in the for in loop for x in Z. That means x is every value in the list Z. For 0th index it will be x value will be Joseph, for the first index will be x value will be Glenn, and for the second index the x value will be Sally. So in each time the for loop it will print happy new year Joseph, happy new year Glenn, and happy new year Sally, and after the for loop is executed it will print done. So this is was the whole overview of list and for in loop. Now, if you go to the next slide, is it looking inside lists? Like we just want to see what is the basically indexing happen in the list. Just like strings, we can get any single element in the list using an index specified in square brackets. All right. What we do in a string is that we can access each and every character of a string. As you all know, strings are the collection of multiple characters, so we can access each and every characters in a string. Similarly, in a similar case, we can also access each and every value present in a list. Since I said earlier in the previous slide as well, list is nothing but a collection of all the values. So it may contain more than one or more than one value. So it may contain only one or more than one values. Okay. So the indexing of those values starts from 0. So the first element will be indexed at 0. The second element will be indexed at 1, and the third element will be indexed at 2. So officially you can see there are three elements, but in the programmer's perspective the indexing starts from 0, so it will see as 0, 1, and 2. And therefore when we go into the for in loop, what we see is that the control variable will start from 0, and then it will go to 1, and then it will go to 2, then printing each and everything. So if you have to access the first element of the list, then we can say friends of index 1, and then will print Glenn. Or if we want to print Sally, if we want to access the element Sally, then what we can do? We can do is just friends of index 2, then we'll get a reference of Sally, therefore we can print that. Okay, so this is how indexing happens inside list. You can access each and every value inside a list by just referring that list with a particular index number. Okay, so that was it. And the second thing you have to learn about lists is that lists are mutable. Okay, lists are mutable. Now what is the meaning of mutable? Mutable means you can change the values in the list. But if I compare the lists with strings, since unlike strings which are immutable, lists are mutable. Okay, strings are immutable. That means we cannot change the contents of a string in the original string I'm talking about. We can change the string, but the changed string is stored in a new variable string. Okay, so we cannot change the original string, but we can change the original list. Since lists are mutable, we can change the element, we can add new element, we can delete the same element in the same list, we can copy the list items into another list, and we can do any other functions or any other types of things inside a list. For example, here if we have fruit is equals to banana and it is a string, fruit of index 0 will be b, and it will see what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to change this the first letter of this string, and that is capital. I'm trying to change it and to make it a small, but see, Python is not allowing me to do that because string object does not support item assignment. Okay, so this is a string, this was a string, and since I was trying to change the first character of the string, it wasn't allowing me to do that. But what if I change it to a lowercase, then it will definitely allow me to do that. Okay, and now in case of a list, let's say there is a list variable name lotto, and it contains 5 values. And if I print lotto, then it will print here. What if I have to change the second index in the particular list? Now I have changed the second index. The second index in my list is 26, but I want to change that 26 to 28. Now I have written the code as lotto of index 2 is equal to 28, and now if I print lotto, see, you can see here simply that the list item has changed because lists are mutable. The second index in the list is now 28 instead of 26. So this is how we can change the values in the list. Then the next slide, we're going to know how long is a list. Now, if you want to know the length of a list, how many values it contains, there is a simple function in Python, the predefined function in Python, you can do that, uh, and that function is known as the len function, len function. What does the len function do? Len function just takes the list as an argument, okay, as a parameter or as an argument, and returns the number of values or the elements that are contained in the list. Okay, the similar thing that we do in a string. Okay, what we do is that we count the number of characters present in a string, and that is the length of the string. Okay, we use a similar syntax, the similar function len, so we can use the same function in list as well, len. Okay, so here is example, good example. There is a string variable greet, and it contains a string hello Bob. Now if we print length of greet, then we will print 9 because there are 9 characters in the string starting from index 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there are 9 characters in the string. Now in another example, I have a list which contains 4 characters, as I can simply call it. Here are 1, 2, Joe, and 99. There are 4 characters in the list. And if you print len of x, then it will print 4. That means there are 4 values or 4 elements inside a list. So this is how we can calculate the length in a list. Now, moving on to the next slide, here we have the range function. Now, what is a range function in Python? See, range function returns a list of numbers that range from 0 to 1 less than the parameter. Okay, so range, with the help of a range function, we can just return a sequence of numbers, a contiguous sequence of numbers, basically starting from 0, and that is very important, that everything will start from 0, but it will end up with 1 less than the original number that is present in the parameter. For example, if I'm going to print range of 4, then it will print the sequence of integer numbers starting from 0 but less than 4, integer number starting from 0 less than 4, and that will be 0, 1, 2, 3 only. That's it. So this is what range functions do. We can construct an index loop using for and an integer iterator. Like for example, what we can do is that we can declare a French as a list, Joseph, Glenn, Sally, and we can print length of list, and that is 3. Now if we print range of length of friends, what it will do is first it will access the length of friends, and that is 3. Then it will print the range of that 3, and that will be 0, 1, 2. Okay, so this is what the example of range function, and I hope that this was clear for you. Now in the next slide, we are going to learn how we can concatenate two lists using a plus operator sign. Alright, so we can create a new list by adding two existing lists together. Now what if I have to create a new list by adding two existing lists in Python? Like we can do I'm gonna explain this with the help of example. Let there be a list 1 which contains 3 values as namely 1, 2, and 3, and there will be list 2 or named as b, which contains also 3 values 4, 5, and 6. Now my task, or my the end goal is to make a new list, and that list must contain the all the elements or the values of list A plus all the elements and the values in list B. When I'm referring to as plus, it doesn't mean it will add the values, but it will concatenate the values of list A with list B. Concatenation means to join the values, not addition. Addition is a mathematical term, but I will talk about the joining the values. Okay, So my desired task is to print is to make a list C which contains 1 2 3 4 5 6, that is the elements from a list A joining with the elements of list B. Now how can I do that? We can use the plus operator simply. We can use C is equals to A plus B, and we can print C, and there we can see the output as 1 2 3 4 5 6. Now if we print A, and the output will be only 1 2 3, so that means that we can make a new list. We can add the two lists with the help of plus operator, and then we get the concatenated list. And the fun thing and the most important thing to note here is that while concatenating the two lists, the list A and the list B, is immutable. That means it doesn't change. There is no affection in the values in the list A and the list B. So this is the beauty of lists in Python. That is, while concatenating or while removing any elements, it just not just affect the elements that were actually present in the list A and list B. Okay, that was the concatenation list using plus sign. Now we are going to learn about how list can be sliced. What is the meaning of sliced? Slice means we have to remove some elements or some parts of the value in the present of in the list. Okay, so this is the meaning of slice, that we just with the help. Okay, now in the next slide we are going to learn about a slicing in list. Now what is the meaning of slicing? When I talk about slicing, it means that you can cut some values inside a list, some element inside the list, without disturbing the order of a list. Okay, you can just take out some of the values from a list, and we can just print it. Like for example, in this here we have a list named T is equal to 9 41 12 3 74 and 15. There are 6 elements inside a list. Now if I just access element 1, now we can access it with the help of T of index 0. We can access 9. If you want to access 12, then we can access it with the help of T of index 2, because 0 1 and 2, so 12 is present as index 2. So this is very basic, this is very easy. But what if I have to access the element from 41 to 3? Now how can I do that? We can do that with the help of slicing. Now what is the syntax? We just referred the list, and we can put the square brackets, and inside the square brackets we can type from where we have to start the slicing, that is the starting position, till where we have to end the slicing. Now here you have to be sure that the slicing only happens from the starting index, the inclusion of the starting index, but the end index is not included. That means the slicing is always gonna end one index before the end, before the end index, right? For example, if I put the element from T of 1 is to 3, that means it will only access the 1 and the second element, not the third element. So the output will be 41 and 12. And if I want to access T is to 4, that means we have to access the first 4 elements, and that is 9 41 12 and 3. Now what if I have to access the last of the 3 elements? Now we can do that with the help of T 3 is 2, that is 3 is 2 is a kind of slicing which we can use to access only the last 3 elements. Now here T 2 is 2, that means the last 2 elements. T 1 is 2, that means it's the last one element that we have to slice from the list. Now what is T is 2? That means to access each and every element from the list. So this is what slicing is. You can access any elements from any position in the list with the help of the is to, the ratio operator. Okay, so this was very easy. Now second, we are going in the list methods. Now there are many types of lists. If you want to check the type of a list, you can just print the message as type X, then it will print type list. And if you want to check how many methods are there in the list, you can just print this command, and you can see how many methods there are. Several methods in the list, like append, count, extend, index, insert, pop, remove, reverse, and sort. Okay, so building a list from scratch. Now how can we build list from scratch? We can create an empty list and then add elements using the append method. Now what does the append method do? Append method add the element that is present in the argument in the end of the list. Okay, so for example, I have created a list as an empty list, and now the initialization of the list will be done like this: stuff is equals to list as an empty function. Okay, so this will tell the compiler that I have to create a stuff, a list which is named as stuff, but that list is empty now. Now I have to append, that means I have to add one element at the end of the list. Now then we will use the append method, stuff.append, and inside the parameter I have passed the string as book. Now there will be stuff will contain one element, and that will be book. Now again I have stuff dot append 99. Now 99 will end at the end of the list. First there will be book, now second will be 99. So if you print the list stuff, then it will print as book and then 99. Now again, if I want to continue appending the method and appending some other value like cookie, then it will it will add the cookie at the end of the list. Okay, so book 99 and cookie. So this is how you can build a list from scratch. That means the elements are always added in order, and the elements are added at the from the end of the list. Okay, now is something in the list. Now in this slide we're going to learn about how to check if any item is a particular item or a specific element is present in the list or not. Now there are two operators, like Python provides two operators to check whether any particular item is there in the list or not. Now the first is using sum. Okay, like uh, like we can use like C, we can use like in operator, there's a list which is named as sum, and the list contains values as 1 9 21 10 16. Now we want to check whether the element 9 is present in this list or not. Now we will check by saying the Python like whether 9 in sum, that means the list of the name is sum. 9 in sum means whether 9 is present in that list or not. If it will be present in the list, then the Python will return boolean value as true, otherwise it will return false. Okay, for example, sum, as we can clearly see, the 9 element is present in the list. So if we print 9 in sum, then it will return true. If we print 15 in sum, since 15 is not present in the list, Python will output the value as boolean false. 20 not in sum, not in means not in is a kind of an operator which is used to check whether it is not present in the particular list, whether a particular item is not present in the list. So it will return to true because 20 is not present in the list. So it's simple English language, and I think that is not rocket science, and you can easily understand what is the difference between in and not in. In just particular check whether a particular element present in the list or not. Not in operator check whether the particular element is not in the present in the list or not. Okay, and accordingly it will return the boolean value as true or false. Now lists are in order. So here one thing you have to understand, that lists are actually in order. So list can hold many items and keep those items in the order until we do something to change the order. As we can see here that the append method adds the each and every element at the end of the list. So list is everything, the elements in the list are all already in order. Okay, so list can be sorted as well. Sort method is used to sort the list. It is just a predefined function which we use to sort the elements in the list. Okay, so example, friends is equal to Joseph and Sally. If we do friends dot sort, then we'll print, then it will sort each and every element alphabetically, or you can say lexicographically, inside this list of friends. And if you print the list friends, then it was, you can see here the output as Glenn, Joseph and Sally, because G comes before J and J comes before S. So Python has done all the lexicographically sorting in the string, and it will print this. Okay, now if we print friends of index 1, it will print Joseph because Joseph is present at index 1, and that is very clear. Okay, so moving on to the next slide, we are going to learn about built-in functions and lists. So we're gonna learn about there are number of functions built into the Python that take lists as parameters. Okay, so for example, there is a list as nums which contains 6 numeral values or 6 integer values. Now if we print length of nums, it will return us the number of elements that are present in the length in the list nums. Now if we print max of nums, max is a kind of a predefined function that returns the maximum present in the list. Minimum nums, that will print the minimum element present inside of the list. Sum nums, that will print the sum of all the numbers present inside of the list. Sum nums divided by length of nums, that will divide the all the sum, that will print the basically average of all the elements present inside this list num. Okay, so that is pretty much obvious and pretty much basic here and in the list concept, and I hope you have understood each and every concept in the list which I have told you in this presentation, and I hope you have learned something new and something fun today. Thanks for watching this video.